I'm on a boat, Paul Greengrass. Take a look at me. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
It's time for thanks. So let's talk about Hanks. It's Hanksgiving 2022 with why we're thankful for Captain Phillips. Phillips. I don't know why I said it so fruity, Dragon. What's with that delivery? Captain Phillips. What was that?
I mean, I like to think you. Well, the only Phillips delivery like that I can think of is from a Jeff Dunham routine, so I don't really know where you're.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
We're talking Captain Phillips, folks. This is Dragon. I got to tell you, man, this is a real treat to revisit. So for me personally, I like this might be in the top five or so of Tom Hanks performances. I really think that especially as it gears up towards that third act and it really just ends on this just absolute crescendo of emotions. I mean, if you know, you know, but man, the last like 5 minutes of this movie is just a like an absolute roller coaster ride for him as a performer. And not only that, Dragon, I'm typically someone who's not really a big fan of Paul Greengrass's style. Like I really didn't like it with the Bourne films. I like honestly the only Bourne thing I've ever liked is the Bourne show at Universal Studios. That's the one Bourne related thing that I ever actually got
The only
interested.
Born I care about, Tiki, is Born Again.
Exactly. But
So unless he's born again and somehow in New York, I don't really care.
like I don't know, I just have this very distinct memory of like when the Bourne Ultimatum came out and everyone was like raving about the Paul Greengrass shaky cam style. And I'm like, they're literally sitting in a cafe having a conversation. The camera doesn't have to be this shaky. But anyways, I definitely think that for my money, this is probably Paul Greengrass's best work. I mean, I think this is like captivating stuff. And what I really like about this Dragon is I'm sure we'll break down. I really think this has not a 3 act structure per se, but I would challenge you to say I actually think this has more of like a stage play
Yep,
style.
it's a 2 act. No, for
Yeah,
sure,
it's
it's
a
a
two
2 act.
actor. It's a 2 actor. You and I agree. Yep.
It's a 2 actor. Oh yeah.
So I'm sure we'll break down that plenty more. Of course, the lead actor playing the Somalian pirate is the lead Somalian pirate is very memorable role as well. Dragon, I believe I know he got nominated for
Yeah,
an
he.
Oscar.
Yep, he was nominated for the supporting actor Oscar that year. Yeah.
He didn't win, right?
No, I didn't.
Okay, but yeah, that was still like a really big deal because he
Everyone
was
was rooting for him because the idea this guy he did not go back to like more acting. It was very much he was picked out of obscurity, put in a movie, then we'll back to the grind.
right. Interesting. All right. So, anyways, so yeah, Dragon. I gotta say, I watched the movie once back when it came out. Really liked it. Really captivated by Hank's performance, and it just held up just incredibly well. Maybe a little bit slow to get going before the pirates actually get
It's a
on
slow
board.
burn, you know.
It's a slow burn,
It's
sure,
like
but
waiting in line for Pirates of the Caribbean.
right. But by the end, it's like, oh my god, like what just happened?
Oh yeah,
Okay, so yeah, your thoughts?
yeah. So I find Tom Hanks here to this to be is like one of the roles Tom Hanks does best. We have the compelling everyman who's kind of thrust into being kind of the calm in the storm, and then my God, by the end of this movie, we put him through an Oscar-worthy range of emotions, and it's just Tom Hanks doing what Tom Hanks does best. And hence the reason we talk about him on an annual basis, aside from just in general when Tom Hanks happens to pop up in the things that we like. But yeah, this is like we have him as like again, many people have nicknamed Tom Hanks America's dad, which he very much is. But again, he's he's played the American icons that we adore. So the squeaky cleans and then kind of the very the kind of the monolithic ones in regards of a Fred Rogers or a Walt Disney. And here we have him as the trusted authority figure that you want in a crisis who knows what he's doing. But even then, we kind of strip that away from him as we put him in kind of like literally like a hot box on the sea. and just whenever we're kind of stripping away the control that he has. Again, this movie is very much a war between captains, one could say, in a very, very interesting way. So it's gripping. It's a gripping, suspenseful biopic that captures reality very well in so many places. It's let me put it this way, it's one of those roles that makes you. I gotta admit, there's something kind of funny about this movie, Captain Phillips. When you go back to it, it's the fact that this is like one of those Tom Hanks roles, Tom Hanks movies, where it's like it makes you think all the captain roles that he's taken on. There's like a multiverse somewhere where Tom Hanks could have been Captain
Either
America.
captains or pilots.
Think about it. So he's played bare minimum at least three, just off the top of my head, the most famous ones. He's played three captains by three different venues. Think about it. Captain by land in Saving Private Ryan, captain by air with Sully, and then now captain by sea twice with this, and I'm sure Greyhound. I assume the rank was captain there, but assumedly another sea captain. And it's just going to make you wonder, in a multiverse somewhere, there was a world in which a young Tom Hanks played Captain America when we got the Marvel movies off the ground, a lot faster than we ultimately did. So
yeah, like he's Captain America in the 90s Captain America, and that franchise actually becomes a hit.
Exactly. Think about it. It's like, who's the best, most all-American actor we can get?
No, it does actually track.
It would just be like, what if we had a world where Tom Hanks really got in shape and we actually gave him a good script to be Captain America?
Right.
So honestly, the movie is very much kind of in a sense, obviously, kind of morphs into something we get into the second act of our two act, if you will. But it's very much kind of a modern day pirate adventure in the real world, in kind of in the modern context. In terms of you have.
I mean, you're not wrong, Dragon. You're not wrong.
I mean, literally, the whole thing. What I mean
it's just kind of a funny way to put it, a modern-day pirate adventure. I don't know. I don't know if I would describe this movie as an adventure, per se.
Well, again, it's a harrowing adventure, but an adventure all the same. No, but seriously, though.
I'm sorry. That was just amusing. I'm sorry.
But seriously, to a degree, though, it's kind of like a modernization of we've had pirate movies, but never quite a pirate movie.
No, I hear you. I mean, it's definitely the first, it is a very hot topic, the civilian pirate thing, and it is very much kind of like contextualizing it within the modern day. I don't know. It's not when I think pirate adventures, I think freaking Captain Jack Sparrow, dude. I'm sorry.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying. It's kind of.
I know what you're saying. It's
in a gritty modern context. These are the pirates of.
Could you imagine just a gritty Pirates of the Caribbean reboot where it's just like Captain Jack Sparrow on his last legs, Dragon? He doesn't have any tricks up his sleeve yet this time. It's just
basically it's Old Man Sparrow is what you're saying.
Yeah, Old Man Sparrow, exactly. And he's just on a raft in the middle of the ocean, just clinging to life the whole movie.
Just drinking from a flask. Because it's a dramatic setting, he's drinking from a flask and he's saying,
"Oh God,
what do you do when a drunken sailor? What do you do?" Eli in the morning shoots off a gun.
He starts hallucinating about the Willem Dafoe lighthouse captain.
Pretty much.
All right.
Okay, regardless, the fact that pirates historically we've kind of glorified them. In reality, not so nice, especially in the way of the pirates of today.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So give us some background, Dragon.
All right. So as you probably guessed, based on a true story. Yeah, this is based on a Somali pirate hijacking of the of the Mask, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Now, essentially, this is like it's like a cargo container ship, where it's like what they say in the movie. I'm pretty sure where it had like food and resources and such on it. Probably just like in general, really kind of rudimentary stuff for struggling nations on board. And essentially, Captain Phillips, he pretty much everything. I gotta admit, ultimately, this thing is with two to three major exceptions. One major exception, the other two just like kind of like dramatic license that would take with any biopic. It's very much based on what happened, and what happened is Captain Phillips obviously survived, and he wrote a book, and that book, like the year it came out, so this thing happened 2009, writes a book 2010, and then of course Sony options it, and then a few years later, I believe 2012 or 2013, I think it's 2013.
2013, the movie came out.
That's what I mean. Yeah, so 2013,
Uh-huh.
the movie comes out. So yeah, it's kind of how it's honestly, it's kind of unfortunately. Look at it, glass half full, glass half empty, what have you. Bad thing happens in history. As soon as someone dedicates it to paper in some narrative format, we make into a movie, monopolize it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
I gotta tell
originally,
you, Dragon, that Harvey Weinstein movie that literally just came out, myself and pretty much everyone else, I have no interest in revisiting that right now.
honestly, I think the time is kind of past for it. But yeah,
I I think it's in an awkward time where it's like I feel like it's not like a hot off the presses topic, but I also feel like it's like I don't know, it's almost like too soon at the same time. You know what I mean? Like we need at least another 10 years. I don't know.
or at least until he
it's a weird cash grab.
kicks the bucket. So that's the other one. Like he'd be on the
Right.
news and everything. He's like, hey, let's start with that guy people don't like. But no, so originally this was
I would, you
this
know what biopic I would want to see
I know a
regarding
recent.
Harvey Weinstein?
Okay, what do you got?
I'm sorry, that sounds bad. I'm sorry. I would want to see a biopic about Quentin Tarantino having to navigate Hollywood and his terrifying relationship with Harvey Weinstein.
This is gonna sound in poor taste, but go with me.
Oh,
I
oh,
would I would love it if we had like a dramatic through line in that biopic of Kevin Smith being truly like in like being the heartbreaker of the movie, in which you just saw him like learn the truth and be so just.
oh.
What's the idea? Kevin Smith just kind of like at the feet of Tarantino is like you have Tarantino as your protagonist, and
At the
Kevin Smith's
feet
like
of Tarantino.
you have Kevin Smith as like the plucky young Tarantino in the making. Just like,
Oh,
hey, Quentin, guess what? Harvey's gonna, help me with my movies and stuff. And then, of course, it's
oh
like, oh
man.
no, Kevin, no.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Again, very,
Anyway.
very poor taste. If I can get us
Now
back
that's the
on,
biopic I want to see.
yes. So originally, Paul Greengrass was not set to direct this. Guess who was?
Oh, okay, off the top of my head, I'm gonna say maybe Danny Boyle. Probably not.
No.
Why? Who?
Well, I can't tell you why. I'm gonna.
I know. Who?
It was Ron Howard. Ron Howard was supposed to direct this,
Oh,
and
okay.
what
That
happened
makes
was
sense.
at least the way the story goes, he and Paul Greengrass and Ron Howard, they kind of pulled swapsies on each other. Essentially, what happened was
Mhm,
Ron Howard was set to do this, and Paul Greengrass originally was set to do the movie Rush.
mhm.
And things conflicted, and they ended up swapping movies. So Ron Howard ended up doing Rush, and Paul Greengrass ended up doing this.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Nice.
director buddies. That's how it works. So I believe Tom Hanks they got on board first with this in terms of the big inaccuracy of this film is Tom Hanks is basically, I mean, as you can probably guess, whenever you cast Tom Hanks in anything, Tom Hanks is a lot cooler and a lot more in control and much more kind of affable than apparently the real Captain Phillips was. And that's not to say Captain Phillips is like a bad guy or anything, but that's to say that what happened was when they made this movie, the
Did
whole
he
reason
pretty
this
much
movie,
like get to the act 3 point quicker, essentially?
no, here's what happened.
Okay.
So what the movie did is the whole reason the movie probably got kind of fast tracked ultimately is not super fast tracked because obviously it took some time to make it, but the fact is like, hey, let's get Tom Hanks on this. I suspect the reason they got Tom Hanks for this is that the movie, the inaccuracies that Captain Phillips play a lot more heroically than the situation actually was, and Captain Phillips apparently in real life will be the first to tell you, oh no, I wasn't a hero in that situation at all. And if anything, people tried to sue him and everything over like mismanagement of this, of getting him in Dodge with the Somali pirates. Basically, the media sensationalized him, like, look at our brave survivor and all he did,
Uh-huh.
because the main heroic thing he did was getting on
That's
that thing
honestly
versus.
kind of what the Sully biopic ended up being.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into the whole Sully thing, but yeah, but I mean, this is much. That was more about like all the doubt on Sully. That's what that turned out into being. This is
Right.
much
Well,
more
I'm
like
just saying Sully's more about like the aftermath of the event than the event
yes.
itself. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, sure. Well, the thing is, just the media instantly pronounced him a hero without really actually talking to anyone, getting the full story. And it feels like to me the studio did not read the book, but they needed an excuse. Like if they read the book, they would have seen, oh, he wasn't that heroic after all. Maybe we shouldn't get Tom Hanks for this. But again, worked out. I love Tom Hanks. I like the movie. But it just feels like like they just went, okay, hero story. We finally have it officially committed to paper by the guy. We're going to buy those rights and turn into a movie. We're going to get one of the biggest stars who everyone loves, and who's going to make this guy kind of recapture the heroism of this guy. It was really just kind of like really unlucky and made some bad decisions that ended up being ended up him doing kind of falling into a heroic move with the hostage situation.
And really, with the hostage situation, it's really like it's the Navy SEALs that are the true heroes there, and I'm sure he'd be the first person to tell you that.
Exactly, that's the thing. Again,
but honestly, I think the movie does a good job of depicting that. I'm not saying it doesn't.
Yeah. So basically, that and the fact it was like 3 boats instead of 2 boats. I think they smartly cut it down to 2 boats for simplicity. Of okay, we're only going to focus on 1 boat, so let's not do 3 boats. Let's just have it start off in 2, and one gets scared off with the one that's important does not. And then of course, just oddly, just a few little tidbits during the hostage scene basically were kind of made a little bit more dramatically interesting, like ratcheting up the tension. Like if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say him like looking out for the kid with the foot probably was sensationalized for the movie.
Sure, yeah.
It was nice though. I liked it.
I would be willing to bet that the whole situation with the glass and the foot and everything involving that is probably. Like, unless you know otherwise.
Well, I think I heard that the glass thing actually did happen, but I don't necessarily buy that they would have cultivated like the fringe. The whole letter thing, him writing the little note to his family, that was made up for the movie. So I'm assuming the payoff of that relationship was probably fabricated, making me think the whole relationship with that guy was fabricated, but not the glass.
Totally.
Like the full John McClane, ironically, but it did apparently. It sounds like it did actually happen. Anyway. So, last interesting thing I should mention here. So, this movie shot on not the boat, but shot on the sister ship. This is basically a ship that's almost identical to the Alabama. This was shot on the Mask Alexander, the Mask Alexander, which is and they built a replica of the real lifeboat. So this whole movie was absolutely shot on the water. I mean, everything, like they were completely on location. There's no sound stage or anything. I mean, if anything, maybe a tank for a few of the lifeboat scenes, but that every time you're inside that lifeboat, it is moving around because is on the water. It's not like they're.
I mean, that definitely sounds in line with Greengrass's style for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, not the last thing that you kind of teed up there. So we had the Somalis. Really cool thing. The Somalis were not actors at all. They pulled legit Somalis, and they put them in this movie, and they had them act for the first time, which ended up getting one of them an Oscar nomination, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's it. Let's dive into it.
Okie dokies.
Let's set sail, as it were.
Indeed. It be too late to alter course, mateys.
So we definitely have a slow burn at kind of the Act 1 half of our story here, basically getting things.
You need it though. You need it to kind of like, because basically what we have in Act 1 is we have Phillips in control of the situation to the best extent of his ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean what I really love about the slow burn. Is obviously we've got to get him from land to sea. Otherwise, if we start off with him sea, you got to see him kind of set out. But I like that we're building the dread of the danger of the pirates with these 2 stories that literally build to a collision. That's literally what I mean. Here's the thing. If you want, it's really weird if you do go for a 3-act structure of this, because it makes Act 2 is really brief. If you look at it, Act 2 is just hide and seek. That's really what Act 2 is. Act 1 is pretty much ends with "I'm the captain now," and which again is a great dramatic end of Act 1. But then that's what I'm saying. It's a lot easier if you just look at everything on the Alabama and everything on the lifeboat. It's pretty simple.
Exactly. You can just totally picture a stage play where it's like like Act 1 is on the ship deck, and then Act 2 you can totally picture like the set change to be like the lifeboat.
Yeah. Well, my point
is, I really want this to be a stage play. Actually, the more I think about it,
I mean, it would work really because effective. I mean, especially if you kind of minimize things to just focus on Captain Phillips.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Pretty much, it's a story between 2 captains. That's literally what the whole thing is. Regardless,
exactly.
So my point in bringing up, like, if you did separate into Act 1 and such, if into a 3-act structure, my point is in the early part of our story. you have these two stories that build to a literal collision, and we're kind of cutting between them. We're building up again the story of our two captains.
Let me tell you the part of the movie that just absolutely we do not need and ages pretty poorly.
What?
It's the very brief conversation with his wife at the beginning.
You know, it's very interesting you say that, because Tiki, what they did on this movie, they cut all of her other scenes.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying, like, you don't really need it, because you pretty much, like, I feel like there's enough references to his family throughout that you don't, you get it. You get the man has a family, and I don't know. I feel like just the whole, like, starting the day and the conversation about what are we going to do with the teenager? He's not applying himself like he used to. He's not going to make it in this world.
I think the only point with that scene, so I think it's
Dragon, it's a very okay boomer moment for Tom Hanks, all right? That's what I boil it down to.
Well, I think that the main point of that is just to highlight that, there's a natural resource. He's the average Joe with natural resourcefulness, where it's like back in my day, we just, we really worked for things. We're now basically saying in the modern context, which he has to work in now, you have to be really clever and really ahead of the curve. That when 50 guys are competing for the same, it's kind of a twofold thing. Or one, it's just him being able to navigate the situation, but also you could make the argument as drawing parallels to the Somali pirates, in which it's like,
definitely trying to draw the parallels to the pirates. I definitely think that's what it's trying to do.
Again, like he's dealing with like a 16-year-old kid who hurts his foot, so I think the parallels are there as well. Like these desperation on these pirates, in which it's desperation in our first world to desperation to the not so first world.
I don't know. I guess it's just like whenever I think of like Tom Hanks in a movie involving the ocean and we have like set up with the wife, I'm like, oh God, this is bad pacing.
Right.
Like, I'm sure we'll get to Castaway, and I'm sure the stuff with Helen Hunt was the wife in Castaway, was she not?
I mean, I honestly can't remember.
Am I like just hallucinating that, or I don't know?
I really don't know. I can't.
I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna be genuinely impressed.
I mean, there's no way it's Holly Hunter, right? It's got to be.
Let me see. Hold on,
because the Hunt thing sounds anyway. So, the point being, so
it was Helen Hunt. I was right.
Well, there you go. There's good news and just good news and egg salad, noodle salad.
Right.
Quote Jack Nicholson from As Good as It Gets.
Every clock is right twice a day, even the broken ones.
All right.
Okay. Anyways.
All right. So honestly, the point is we get him on the ship. And I like when he's on the ship. I love the mundanity. Now, here's something that's just very much something they did in the movie using Tom Hanks. I think was a really smart choice for just conveying the story of the film versus like. Even though it is very inaccurate, where essentially the real Captain Phillips, he ignored the warning about the pirates. And that's what happened in real life. He ignored like the email. Basically, when he got that email when he's on the boat, it was warning him, hey, pirates are in the area, so you should stay this many miles away. But it's a no-win situation, so it's not that Phillips did an egregious thing, but it just didn't go off as like, hey, we should run drills.
Uh-huh.
Or basically it was purely coincidence in real life where they would happen to be running drills and then that happened, but not like, hey, wait a minute.
Right. I got to admit, the whole like, hey, we should run drills thing, that did feel like some bullshit. I got to admit.
I mean, I really liked that. I like that he's like, oh man, well, we should. Honestly, what I liked about it is the fact that I love how mundane the Paul Greengrass like shaky cam style. I think it looks really good for mundanity on like a moving boat. And I like how we're just kind of following him doing these mundane things that do actually. Then, of course, once the action kind of creeps in, then there's an intensity applied to the mundanity of like these tasks of like, well, you're on a boat. There's only just like move it a little this way and make sure all the gates are locked and you're prepared in case something happens. Which again, I don't know. I think that's really there's kind of like a very much kind of like a school lockdown kind of active shooter kind of vibe to this movie.
Uh-huh.
Which adds a lot of menace, and again, just that building sense of dread in a really cool way. So that's good. Of course, the UK during this situation, they in real life they were also no help at all with the distress call. Just is like, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Really, that's it.
Ooh,
yeah. They didn't say it was just going to be fisher. They didn't say, it's probably just fishermen, though. But it still was not helpful. Just like, just follow your procedures.
Right.
We've logged in the call, just. But I love all the defensive measures. I love the idea that we have these guys on a boat who are, Union men. They're not soldiers. They don't have guns. This is like supposed to be a cargo run, and the idea is they were cheaping out at the time, so their bosses were cheaping out, so no armed gunmen on the ships at all times. So they were, they have hoses, they have scare tactics, with like fake calls, and like they act like they're calling an airstrike, and maneuvers and sonic pulses, and yeah.
Yeah, I got to admit, Dragon, one of the things about Act 1 that I just, it just kind of drags a little bit is that it does kind of feel like an exercise in futility a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I kind of like how that feeds. At least I like the measures failing, because you think it's kind of tantalizing you to, oh man, don't let them board that ship. And of course they have.
I guess, Dragon, here's the thing: it's like on rewatch, like it probably works pretty well, like from a suspense point of view of like, don't let him board that ship, like. And even on a rewatch, yeah, it's like knowing what goes down on the ship. There is that factor of like, oh boy, shit's gonna get real now. But I will say, like, knowing how much more intense the movie gets once we get on that lifeboat, I don't know. I got to admit, it does kind of like have that whole like Act 1 is very much just kind of like the setup, and then Act 2 is it's just kind of just like the mile a minute thrill ride. So I don't know. There's just like it almost kind of goes from like too slow to almost like the pacing becomes relentless by the end. Which honestly, though, I do think that is like, and we'll get there more with the ending when we talk about like just the sheer realism of this movie. But I think that is probably part of it, right? Is that, and I know that's part of Greengrass's style. He did a very similar thing with United 93, where it's like a lot of that movie is just very, very, mundane, almost documentary style kind of cinema verte, fly on the wall sort of, mundane day-to-day conversations. And then it just happens to be in this, in the middle of this, like this cataclysmic event almost. So, I don't know, it is interesting. I definitely think this movie has a much more effective structure than something like United 93, because Dre, I'm not sure how familiar you are with that one, but that one, like I said, it very much tries to essentially be like a fictionalized documentary, and in some ways, it's a weird movie to revisit. But I digress.
I mean, I'll admit, when you look at this movie, as great as things get, when obviously when the tensions ratchet up, I do feel there is something that could have been cut from the movie that I think might have helped it pacing wise. Aside from the Catherine Keener thing, which again I think there's like an argument. Honestly, I think really they were showing off, hey, we cast a lady who looks like his wife. I think it's really ultimately what that was. Because she does look like her in the pictures. Like, oh, yeah, Catherine Keener's actually really solid casting for that lady. But later on, though, I think to fit into your stage play point, Tiki, is that it feels like if we were to make this movie today, in the kind of the post like indie boom of A24, if you will.
Yeah.
It feels like we wouldn't cut away from the ship at all until we're literally on the lifeboat when we have like the hostage negotiators.
To tell you the truth, like in the A24 era, I could almost see the whole movie just taking place on the lifeboat almost.
But you see what I mean in kind of the post Albuquerque verse and A24 kind of era. It feels like at the very least, like everything of like, hey, we're on land, because again, it feels like we cut out the Catherine.
I definitely hear you, and the on land stuff. This is going to sound like a little bit harsh, Dragon, and I don't necessarily mean this in a negative way at all. I just mean it in that it's kind of like the most generic part of the movie. But like, the cutting to the on land stuff and the progress and the military and stuff, it feels a little Michael Bay-y, just a little bit.
Well, it feels very.
And like I said, I don't say that in a bad way. I say that it feels like '90s Michael Bay, where it's effective, it gets the point across. But I don't. Paul Greengrass has never really been known. It's like you're not really gonna. Honestly, this movie has more character work in it with just the two leads than most Greengrass movies do. But
honestly, it feels more like more redundant than anything else. Because again, this is a movie that really does flourish a repetition with lines coming back a lot of times. When you do like the kind of the redundant action of like, something needs to be done. What's the situation? What's the ETA while we're on land and not at sea? It feels a little like, why are we doing this?
Totally.
Which again, it makes more sense to cut away from that one. Like, okay, we have the Navy who are like this giant ship dwarfing our little lifeboat outside. That's a lot.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
That's the thing. Of course, you're right though. Now in the very modern era, we probably would just have being a looming thing you'd see out the porthole. That's about it.
Right.
So I mean, here's the thing: the whole exercise and futility thing. I mean, I do like because it does build to our big, huge scene of the movie. Honestly, I think the movie has a number of good scenes in it, but I think ultimately there are two huge standout scenes. The aftermath with Phillips later, which we'll get to, the big Oscar scene, if you
Of
will.
course.
The underrated scene, by the way, because I think everyone goes to the main scene I'm about to talk about here, the I'm the Cap now scene. When this
I mean,
scene,
that's a great scene as far as like kind of like, it's essentially the movie's thesis statement. If you were to, I imagine that, if this were a stage play, Dragon, I imagine that would be the scene that you would want to audition the two leads with. You know what I
for
mean?
sure, it's the test scene, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so this was actually, what's really cool about this, they pulled a Dark Knight on this scene. It's funny, you can kind of verb a few movies within this movie because you have like look, they John McClane that kid. They die hard that kid's feet.
Oh my god.
Where here though they kind of pulled a little bit of a Dark Knight here, where it's where they did the thing they did the Michael Caine on well, not intentionally, but the thing happened with Michael Caine on Dark Knight, where Tom Hanks had no contact.
Dragon, you're saying they pulled an unintentional Caine?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The fact is, Tom Hanks was intentionally, by Paul Greengrass, kept away from the Somali actors for this scene. So when he's seeing them, he's playing
right.
Like he's read in the script, obviously, but he had not seen these guys. So when they
are like you said, they are about as legitimate as you can possibly get with this sort of role.
Exactly, like not actors. I'm sure there's some broken English there. So yeah, it's very so this scene is just it's the first time he's made. We set up the stakes. I love the whole like this. I'm saying I like the defeatist vibe in the score, especially. I love how the score is like there's kind of this droning, kind of like all the hope is kind of like is kind of flooding out, and it's very much like Tom Hanks, Phillips saying, "Stay hidden. The last thing we want are hostages to be taken. Oh, the irony cloud is over this guy's head."
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, I love, and of course we set up the dynamic, the weird kind of captor captee, a bizarre friendship. Like kind of the dynamic.
It's really compelling, Dragon. It really is. I mean, it really is kind of the beating heart of the movie in a lot of ways.
Between Phillips and Muse here, the skinny pirate, the skinny lead pirate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the idea of this guy, he's got like he's feigning cockiness. It feels like, doesn't it? It feels like this guy.
Yes, absolutely, the whole time, absolutely.
Like nobody get hurt.
I mean, when in reality he is in a very, very desperate situation. I mean, his whole life. And that's the whole thing about his performance. I'm sure he's drawing on. We don't really know a lot of details about this dude's life. I'm sure you could look it up, but I'm sure he's playing from some experience because it's like there is just a very much a sense of just desperation in this dude's eyes.
Absolutely. And I honestly tell you, my favorite aspect of this movie performance-wise, just through the duration, especially with these two guys, is Tom Hanks conveys so much without dialogue, especially when he's on the lifeboat later. And so many in his looks when he looks to this guy. And of course,
there's really a certain point where Tom Hanks, he is there's a certain point where he just mentally just breaks and he doesn't have dialogue for a minute.
That's what I'm saying. I just love that. I mean, like even so, like, during these tense scenes when it's like a standoff, you just see him conveying so much with the eyes. And again, like there's a lot of repetitious dialogue in this because again, it's like real life. Real life is going to be a lot of
right. And like I said, the whole cinema verte kind of style. That's very much Greengrass's specialty.
The whole like look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. And I love that it calls
like I feel like the repetition really comes into play like mentally towards the end with the stuff like no waves Americans, no waves, or stuff like that, or
no Al-Qaeda here.
Right. It's like because at that point, like this, like Phillips has been through so much bullshit, and it's like he's just like, oh my god, these people like how do these people expect? Honestly, Dragon, the no waves thing got to me because I'm like what do these people want from the? I don't know.
See, there is. Here's the thing. There's an odd, and this is really fascinating. There's an odd delusion, which again you have with
right. That's what I'm saying. Absolutely, and I think that's what's kind of mentally like breaking Hanks as we go deeper into the climax of the film.
Because that's the thing. I mean, honestly, if we're looking at here's the thing, so when they learn that it's an American ship, they're thinking jackpot because the Americans, pay out big. Because again, they're thinking like, hey, it's the first world country. These guys are loaded compared to our usual. Like again, they're dealing with other countries that most likely probably more inclined to make deals than the U.S. could, which is there's a lot of bolster there, and obviously the whole.
But guess what, Dragon? This movie was made during Obama's America, so Hollywood was actually patriotic back then.
So yeah. So that's the, so that's the thing. It's the fact of like in the whole like again we have a line in here that says no Al Qaeda here, basically them saying we're not terrorists, we're ransomers. So they think that this is going to be okay because it works out every other country. But no, this is not going to go your way. And Captain Phillips knows this, and he's trying to convey that to his kind of his counterpart here, and he's not hearing it because. But again, fascinatingly, this guy loves America. He says he wants to go to New York and buy a car.
Yes, absolutely.
So he's deluded
and
by
that very much kind of like has the presence of like a stage play, kind of like like dueling. Like they're not protagonist. It's obviously protagonist antagonist, but in a way, it's almost like they're dueling for the audience's sympathy in some ways. Just because this guy, it's so clear how lost he is. And if there is one good thing I can give the setup with the son, I think it absolutely just kind of like, illustrates why Hanks is just so at wit's ends with all these people, because he very much does see, I think the conversation underlines things maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit too, too much, but still, it's definitely a pointed marker for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, here's a line that comes back dramatically, really great in the end. That is kind of repeated throughout by our lead pirate, where he says, everything's going to be okay, Irish. Where ultimately,
what do you think of the Irish runner? By the way,
I love the Irish.
Like we're talking about repetition, so we got to bring that up.
Well, that's his nickname. I love it. He gave him a nickname and made the point saying we're going to call him Irish. And also, it leads to one of the great. It's kind of in the very serious movie. There is a very fun line.
Do you know if Tom Hanks is Irish in real life?
Well, I mean, I think he is, but I don't know for certain.
You don't know for sure. All right, that's fine.
But at the very least, Captain Phillips probably Irish.
Right, I'm sure Captain Phillips is. Yeah,
I imagine.
If not, that would be a really weird adaptation change.
So I forget if Tom Hanks
would be a really weirdly specific thing to change from the true story.
Because I don't think Tom Hanks is. Here's the thing: Tom Hanks does a great New York accent, so I don't know if he's from New York or not. But I assume he's not.
He feels like he could be like an Irish Catholic boy.
That's the thing. Here's the thing: Tom Hanks plays Irish Catholic a lot, though, which makes me think most likely he is Irish. But you could say that. But that's kind of basically that's the easiest, like old school. When you do a period thing. Classic Americana, most traditionally.
There's only one way to find out, isn't there?
I guess there is.
Okay, hold on. Is Tom Hanks Irish?
Where's Mr. Potato Head doing the Catholic cross?
Tom Hanks was born in. He's Irish. He's German, Irish, and Northern Irish.
Yeah, okay, so definitely.
And he's also got a surprising amount of Native American in him.
Does it say where he's from?
He's from Concord.
Oh, there you go.
My neck of the woods.
I knew it wasn't New York. Okay. Anyway, we have this funny line amidst our dramatic movie, which is "You're bad luck, Irish." It's a good line.
Some of the moments that really drive me crazy are when he's like, everything is okay now, Irish. We get you home. I get my money. It's like, okay, dude, you are delusional. This is not a good situation.
But again, he's deluded by the American dream in an odd way, which is really fascinating, given again the whole first world, third world kind of thing we're working with here. But also the whole everything's going to be okay, which is what's said to him by the naval doctor, by the medic. Mm-hmm. And he sheds a tear at that. Is he shedding a tear because of everything that's happened, or is he shedding a tear over it's the thing he kept hearing repeated to him over and over again?
Sure.
So again, a lot of tension at gunpoint, was just in their dynamic there, and of course, like the whole shoot me, which obviously is also like an ad here where the real guy did not say shoot me very Tom Hanks heroically, like shoot me, I'm here with you. And so again, just really, and obviously the whole the big line of the movie, you probably know this, was improvised.
What is the big line? Sorry.
I'm the captain. Look at me.
Oh,
I'm the
I'm the
captain now.
captain. Okay, got it.
That was improvised by our non-actor, so that's really impressive.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah,
That's like the line of the movie.
it is. Yeah.
All right, let's see. So again, kind of the one could say Act Two, but let's just say again the back half of Act One of our extended theatrical Act One here. It's pretty much hide and seek. We have Michael Chernus, who's a good actor, by the way. He's unrecognized because he doesn't really have a beard in this movie because he always has a beard. He's like the number two guy on the boat. He's the Tinkerer in the in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I remember.
Anyway, so I love the stealth tactics, which ends up really paying off when they're John McClaning that one kid, and then they ultimately hold the other captain at
Honestly, Dragon, it does feel a little bit too Hollywood, like just how they don't really. There's not really a struggle to do that. It's like they go through the glass, they easily get the glass. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad. It's just like it's one of the few things that seems a little bit convenient through the execution of the movie.
I mean, maybe, but honestly, they're just really lucky that one pirate did not have shoes on. That's really
what I'm saying. Exactly right.
But then again, they are Somali pirates, though. Somali pirates are not really known for always having shoes.
Dragon Somalian pirates are known for their fantastic footwear. Thank you very much.
Oh,
obviously, I'm kidding.
I know. But you know what? I love how clever Phillips is in this movie. I love it where he's like he has the radio on. He's basically saying, okay, we're gonna go here and here and here, basically implying for them to stay hidden and everything. We have the really tense water scene where he's like shoving melons on them, like, hey guys, try some melon. This is really good stuff. That's the thing, is the fact that he's like clever in the moment, which takes him a long way. And obviously then the crew, again, the element of surprise that Phillips has allotted them, they were able to gang up on kind of the lead pirate there, and they tackle him and they hold him hostage. So they pulled a switch on him.
Uh-huh.
And then they strike the lifeboat deal, and this is, of course, those dirty, rotten pirates, man. They're rascally. They
rapscallions.
Yeah. Unwashed rapscallions. So they, of course, they stymie him after take the 30,000, get on the lifeboat. We can all go home happy. And what do? They take Phillips with them, which is a bad move.
Oh yeah.
Yep, very costly.
I mean, like I said, Trey, I keep bringing up this point, but imagine if you're seeing a stage version of this, and that's the Act One cliffhanger.
Yeah, and of course you have stage lights and everything, where you just have
the
big build of no. But how great is the build, the scale of that thing when you see that lifeboat hit the water? And
it's really cool. Yeah,
that is a phenomenal act break of, oh my god, they kidnapped Hanks, they kidnapped America's dad. Father's Day will never be the same again.
Oh my god!
Someone get Spielberg on the phone. He loves this sort of stuff. Anyway.
Okay, so yeah, then Act 3, man, it really is, or Act 2, or however.
I know the second part of our story.
Yeah, I mean, it really does just really ratchet up. I love how I just love how it's just kind of relentless with the intensity.
They had to downplay it a little bit, but in the real, because you see passage of time during this, but they're in this lifeboat for 5 days, and
it does not feel like 5 days in the movie.
It does. There is a day-night cycle, so you're right though. It doesn't feel like 5 days.
Yeah, it feels like a day,
maybe 2, but yeah. Maybe, but I think you're right. It does feel more like you see a day-night thing, but at least 1 day, possibly 2 most. Regardless, in real life, there for 5 days, and also when daylight hits in that little lifeboat, 100 degrees inside.
Ooh,
when 5 people in that thing, and it's they refuse to open the hatch. So that's the thing. There's kind of initially there's kind of a cozy claustrophobic kind of sense on the lifeboat, which then just turns very just chaotic, and they're going crazy with cabin fever essentially.
Essentially, yeah.
To take it back to pirate terms. But yeah, and again, I love like they're as I said, they're actually in water during these interior shots. So much so, some of the crew guys got sick. Reportedly, one of the guys threw up on Tom Hanks.
Oh God.
I don't know if it was like the cast member or it was like the crew guy. Just God,
You would never live that down.
you threw up on Sheriff Woody. I hope you're happy.
It
Makes your childhood. What do you do?
I imagine it would just like go around Hollywood too, Dragon.
Yeah.
Like, hey, there's that one gopher who threw up on Tom Hanks.
He really let it go for, didn't he?
Oh God.
He let it go for how long? Well, about 5 minutes. Anyway, let's
Do you
just.
know how accurate the thing with Phillips kind of inadvertently, like giving away his position on the boat with his seat is? Like, was that part of the actual story?
Well, that I didn't hear about, but I would not be. I think that's a very specific detail. But then again, it could be a way of answering the story question of like, how does he not get shot during all this? Well, we're going to say seat 15, but ultimately he's not even in his seat when that
Dumb
scene goes
luck.
down. That's the thing. Remember, he's not even sitting there when that scene goes down. So I have to assume that's a real life detail. Otherwise, why specify seat 15?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I like at the very least it's a naval procedure he would have to give out like a it's a procedure he would have to shout out like what seat or like a code to them somehow. So I think that's probably a real life thing.
Uh-huh.
It's a blind guess. I won't lie. But again, yet again on this boat, this is where we're getting back into the kind of the chemistry and the kind of the dynamic between Hanks and the pirate here. It's very much. It's kind of like I don't know if you had this at all. It's a little when they're on the lifeboat. It's a little Tuco and Heisenberg esque from Breaking Bad. It's a little.
I mean, yeah, a little bit because it's like Hanks is just trying to placate this guy. And you never know what this guy's going to do. He's totally unpredictable.
Because basically, when he sets out the whole like,
he's like actively working against his best interest in certain spots.
And yet they can't kill him because he's the bargaining chip. So, but again, you have one crazy, unstable, the muscle of the group who we established from the beginning. He looks strong. I want that guy. Which you got to remember, that guy's probably just kicking himself. Man, this guy was a terrible choice. Why did I bring him along here?
Right.
So this guy's just he's trigger happy, and he's just like, yeah, I want to shoot at somebody. Let me know, let me shoot the American. It's hot in here. I'm going to shoot next to his head. That's a good idea in a closed space. But yeah, seriously, when he's when our main pirate is suggesting like, hey, let's we're going to get you home. You can eat and drink and have rice and whatever you want when we get back to Somalia. He's like thinking like Tuco Salamanca's sales pitch to Walter White in Grilled. It's the whole we're going to go down to Mexico and open up our own super lab.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I love the international waters debate. Like when we get into the real nitty gritty of the conversation between these two, we see it's not something that's going to redeem the pirates because I think very assuredly, like you're not. Are you? Let me ask you this, Tiki. Are you sympathizing with the pirates at all during this movie?
Only to the extent of like they are obviously coming from a place where this is pretty much their only. It's what they think was their only choice. That's that's the sympathy I have. You know what I mean?
That's true, but
does that make sense?
It makes sense, but the lifeboat is where things really. I think Act 1, let's call it. Act 1 is where all the pirates completely like these are just like bad guys we're absolutely rooting against, and this side I'm not saying we're rooting for them, but I like in this sense that we are. You're peeling back the layers a little bit, and you're seeing the delusion and the desperation, and you have like the kid, for example, Tom Hanks is taking pity on the kid with the hurt foot because he had his foot injured. It's his fault the kid's injured, but again, it was a desperation in his own sense. He had to do that, and again, and the kid is kind of showing he's giving him water when he's asking for it, when the temperamental guy is not doing that at all, and remember he's begging him to put his hands up because he knows
that temperamental guy, dude. He's just like. I mean, he just gets. That is the most upset I have ever seen anyone get ever about a fucking letter.
Yeah, he pretty much cold cocked Forrest Gump, But yeah, I love the moment where right before everything goes belly up, like he's begging that kid to put his hands up because he knows what's about to happen to him. He knows he's going to get shot. So I mean, there's a twinge of sympathy there, but also there is a moment with the lead Somali pirate here when he goes, when Phillips points out, like, you're not going to win this. There is no winning. And he just tries to desperately spell it out to him, and he says, "I've come too far." See, that's the line, right? That's like the only like real gasp of sympathy you have, and then we also have like a line between the two of them about like the Somali situation, which is, we were doing a relief effort, but again, by the same token, they're doing all this for a relief effort. Then you have the Somali pirates who say, big countries come by, essentially they pollute the water and they steal our fish, and we're fishermen. Where again, like that's ultimately the only standing that they have in this situation. That, well, I mean, it's cyclical. You put us in this desperate place, essentially. At least the bigger nations, they all kind of treat us like crap.
So it's like, so I don't know. It's a tricky question to ask because it's, they're clearly in a shitty position, but obviously they're going about it the wrong way. So it's definitely a moral quandary for sure.
Yeah, and then Phillips is bringing up the whole point of the international waters thing, where it's like you did all this, you know how much I got for a ship I stole in this other place? $6 million. Yeah, why are you here then? So it gets to a point where there is desperation, and you think you have no choice. To the point where it's the Heisen. Like, I don't mean to make all these Breaking Bad references, folks, but it kind of feels a little natural at the moment, where it's like, hey, Walter White ultimately does it because he likes it. Where it's like initially point of desperation. Ultimately, because he's good at it, it's an easy way to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, again, there's an area. There's kind of there is a moral ambiguity, as my associate says here. All right, so let's see. So again, just Tom Hanks is communicating looks without dialogue, which is great. And I love he throws the big line of the movie back at him where he says, "You're the captain now." Yeah, what are you gonna do? All right, let's see. So I love that there are shades in the climax here. A little bit of Carl Hanratty from Catch Me If You Can, like during the whole he's trying to talk Frank Abagnale into surrendering, where you have a bit here where the Navy can't let you win. Okay, they can't let you win.
No, yeah, definitely a little bit. I can see that.
Yeah, it's like the people of France.
It's just like this trying to reason at this point. It's just like, he spent the whole movie fighting with this person, but now he's just trying to get to the logical side of their brain.
Then we have the escape attempt, which to my knowledge did actually happen, where he jumps off the ship. And it feels like a real life thing too, because it feels like this is like a really, if you were telling this in a storyline, I don't know if you'd necessarily have him escape if he's just going to end up back in there. It feels like a real life thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's going to be a sloppy escape attempt. And he ends up getting caught again, which then.
Well, I feel like the significance of the escape attempt in the context of the story is that it escalates the situation from the hostage situation to like his life is genuinely on the line after that moment, right?
Oh, absolutely, so? Yeah. Any goodwill that he had is absolutely gone at that point. But points that, if I recall, I think the kid with the injured foot is the one who took him out to use the bathroom, and he pushed him in the water. He was still on good terms with that kid.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So, all right.
Also, at this point in the movie, it really does just become just just white knuckle as hell. Like there really is no breathing room.
Yeah. The last before we get to all that is like the last lines he has with the lead pirate are really interesting. Where he says, "You're not just a fisherman." He's just kind of calls it out there, saying, "You're not as innocent as you say you are." And then of course he kind of throws it back at him, the whole like, maybe in America line to him, essentially, like maybe like the pirate, he's clinging to the delusion of maybe in America it works out this way.
Mm-hmm.
The whole way these hostage situations go. Anyways, yes, you're right. So it's absolutely white knuckle when he's writing that letter to his family, and they just ultimately he's just fighting for his life against Mr.
Him writing the letter very much reminds me of the same directorial style with a very similar moment in United 93 where everyone on board kind of realizes what's going down, realizes they're probably not going to make it out alive, and so they just start trying to contact their families any way they can, like leaving messages and stuff.
Yeah. It's absolutely just this level of, he knows they are not going to walk out of the situation. If they're going to die, they're probably going to take him with them.
Right.
So his survival is not guaranteed. So it's him right.
My survival is based on just a dumb luck shot.
Yeah. I love there's like tension to get the shirt on. I forget if the shirt's mic'd or not because it's not a bulletproof vest.
There's absolutely tension to get the shirt on. That same guy that was upset about the letter was almost equally upset about the shirt.
Like, no gift shop for you. No, you don't get a souvenir. No,
right.
I'm angry. No, I can't roll up my cigarette. I'm ticked off.
Oh my god!
Because of the stupid boat. I hate boats. I hate boats. I don't know why I went on this stupid thing at all. I don't even like the Small World ride.
Oh god.
Anyway. But yeah, also, I mean, I tell you too, what's great with Tom Hanks.
Now, the little motorboats at Disneyland, though.
He loves them. He goes nuts for them.
And then Hanks is like, actually, they took those out. You son of a bitch!
He just hits him again. I mean, seriously, how rarely do we brutalize Tom? Think of that. Rarely do we brutalize Tom Hanks, and you feel really bad seeing it happen.
They had the gummy bears in every. All right, I should tone down the accent. Okay.
No, but seriously, seeing Tom Hanks get beat up, it's like, no, don't beat up Tom Hanks. Stop that.
Oh no, yeah, it is very harrowing, you know. And seeing Tom Hanks get to that point of like, I mean, at this point, we need to talk about. I mean, obviously, we're gonna like, you know, just scientifically just break down how effective that ending 5 minutes or so is.
We are.
But like, just like all the way through, you know, even before the rescue, I mean, he is playing a state of shock and almost like catatonic, just like what the hell is going on and how. Like, you know, I mean, you just kind of see like that glazed over look in his eyes, you know?
I mean, remember the moment right before that, Tiki, where right before he thinks it's all about to end, he's loudly and so desperately apologizing to his family and what he thinks are his dying moments, but he's blindfolded. That blindfolded and hogtied is not a good place to be.
Totally.
And he's just like, I love you.
I mean, just imagine, like, again, this is like the crescendo of the whole movie, but you know, just imagine the feeling, man, of just hearing the gunshots and you know, just having no idea what went down, and you know, even being surprised to still be. I think probably the most visceral acting on Hanks is the moment, right, where he's like, "What was that?"
Yeah, and that's the utter breakdown, and like he's
Dragon. Of course, I am going to have to make a like it's the most dramatic Dylan Massett. What was that?
He's like Dylan watching this in a theater. He's like, that's what that was.
Yes, that's what Norma's breakdown was. With Somalian pirates getting shot. It all makes sense.
Good.
Please.
All right. Okay. Anyway, just movie night at the Bates house, and there's watching Tom Hanks movies.
I mean, you cannot tell me that did not go down at least once.
Do you mean it didn't come across?
Like the Tom Hanks night has had to have happened at least once in that timeline.
I don't think Norman Bates is a Tom Hanks fan, but I absolutely believe that Dylan Massett loves Tom Hanks.
Do you wait? Do you think that Norman Bates would view Tom Hanks as like the competition?
What do you mean?
Like is in like, oh Norman, that Tom Hanks is so dreamy.
I mean, honestly, I think it's twofold. I think Norman Bates, he just likes older movies more at the end of the day, so he's not into. But if you want to go that way with it, I think it's like, I didn't have a father as nice as Tom Hanks.
Who's this Tom Hanks think he is, playing a child? It's so juvenile. He's not big at all. He's a small man.
I don't think you're a very big man.
Oh God.
Also, I don't get it either.
All right, that was perfect.
Anyway. So, we're going to transition away from the good doctor to the other good doctor.
Yes, good, solid transition. And I mean that is the word for it, Dragon. This is a very, very, very good doctor.
Do you know why she's a good doctor, Tiki?
I'm guessing she's a doctor. Is she the actual doctor that treated the real Captain Phillips?
Well, I don't know if she's that same doctor. All I know is like she is an actual like a medic that
I could
an
have
actual
guessed
naval
that because she is very on point. Yeah.
like she's an actual naval doctor medic. I don't know if she was. I mean, she might have been there. I don't know if she was the same doctor, but yeah. But yeah, so this and here's what's really great about this scene, Teague, in terms of performance. So she was really starstruck by Tom Hanks, and she was blown away by his acting, and which you have like an actual
Oh, his acting is just phenomenal. I mean, it's like to the level of like Anthony Hopkins in The Father or something.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. And also off to the side, I think he had like a real captain, like a real naval captain, off to the side saying, "Yep, that's how it goes. That's how
pretty
how
much.
He's
Pretty
like
much,
literally just
yeah.
like saying the Greengrass, like, yeah, he nailed it. That's exactly how he's like. He's that good. Like, give that man another Oscar. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, just Tom Hanks is playing Shock so realistically, and you just see like the initial like like the fact that we have, and we always try to eliminate this in movies, and the fact for a change we did not do any like circumstantial editing or like like 1 in a million like performance type stuff here. It's like, hey, if you're actually in shock, it's going to be a messy process in which you're not going to be like, "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine." Like, no, he's looking for the words. He's having trouble getting the words out. He's like pointing out that, "Are you injured?" Like, right. He's like pointing like to his side.
Like,
You
just
died?
what really got to me was the whole like like, is all this blood yours, and just him like having trouble
Not
just
mine.
comprehending, like, like, this isn't mine, like that got to me, Dreg, because it's just like, like when your brain is firing on all cylinders like that, it really is just like so easy to get yourself tripped up with basic information.
And seeing Tom Hanks go through something in this performance so flawlessly, you're seeing Tom Hanks realize this character who's gone through something this traumatic, and you know what a viewer might say.
What?
It's so sad.
Oh God, yes.
Normal
No,
dates.
seriously though, it is just like the ultimate kind of like climax of like we've been through the journey with this character, and the whole ending of the film is just the emotional release. I mean,
yeah, he kept it together pretty much through the whole movie comparatively. Then he just absolutely releases, and he's just utterly vulnerable. And I love like the tear eyed like thank you, and he's just like
oh man, yeah.
And again, it's a beautiful moment of humanity that he brought to screen. Again, everyone's always talking about that who's the captain now.
No,
the captain,
for me, whenever I think of this movie, honestly, Dragon, I mean, the who's the captain now thing is cool, but like I always go back to the ending when I think about this movie.
Yeah, also, I gotta say, I'm the captain, because who's the captain now is like Reverse Flash going, "Who's the captain now, Flash? Who's the captain now?"
Oh God, who's the captain now, Hanks?
And of course, you'd have Reverse Flash holding a bowl of Captain Crunch.
God.
Anyway.
All
But
right.
again, her ending with her line saying it's going to be okay, which again has a double context to it, which is again bringing it back really nice. That's the line he kept hearing from the pirates, and just ending after that breakdown, hearing that is very, very effective.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dragon, that's another Hanksgiving in the bag, my friend.
Yeah, put in the
We're gonna
cornucopia.
eat well tonight.
Yeah, pass the Hanks.
Oh God. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't want to dissect that. Right. That's it for this thankful Hanksful installment until we return next year with another heaping helping of Hanksgiving.
Giving.
Who's the captain now, Flash?
Look at me. I'm the captain.